Good afternoon, everyone. May we request everyone to kindly settle down and put the respective mobile phones on silent mode. Thank you. We request everyone to kindly settle down as we are soon about to begin with the proceedings of the day. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Colonel of the Regiment of 5th Gorkha Rifles, Frontier Force, and Additional Quartermaster General, Major General Major General Vikram Sharma, Vishesh Seva Medal, former Chief Information Commissioner and son of Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha, Ambassador Yashwardhan Kumar Singh, IFS retired, and Director General Clause Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, retired. It is my proud privilege to welcome this august gathering for the Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha Memorial Lecture being organized on his birth centenary. We are truly honored and delighted to have amongst us three former chiefs of the Indian Army, General N.C. Vij, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Uttam Youth Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, retired, General Deepak Kapoor, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal, retired, and General Darbir Singh Suhag, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Uttam Youth Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal, retired. Your remarkable service and leadership inspire us all, sir. A very warm welcome to you. We are deeply grateful to have you amongst us. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to take you through today's program schedule. The schedule is currently flashed on the screen for your reference, please. Lieutenant General Srinivas Kumar Sinha, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, was a colossus who bridged eras of India's freedom struggle and its modern rise. Famous as the thinking general, he played a pivotal role in redefining governance in the insurgency-hit frontiers of Assam and Jammu and Kashmir. The thinking general famously chose principle over position and believed in the velvet glove of empathy guided by the iron hand of security. To inaugurate today's session, allow me to kindly invite Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, Director General, Center for Land Warfare Studies, to deliver his welcome address. Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, retired, had the distinction of serving twice in the elite National Security Guard as the Deputy Inspector General Operations and thereafter Inspector General Operations. He has also commanded a corps and served as the Commandant, Army War College. Over to you, sir. May I have Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh?
Thank you, Shreya. General N.C. Vij, General Deepak Kapoor, General Dalbir Suhag, General Shukla, member UPSC, senior officers of the armed forces, members of the strategic community, scholars, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to all of you. At the outset, I would like to inform you all that the CDS will be soon joining us anytime. A spot of a kind of a disheartening news in the sense that the RM, due to pressing commitments, has not been able to make it to this event, but he has sent a video message of his, so I'm sure all of you will get the gist of what he wanted to speak today. It's my privilege and honor to welcome you all to this prestigious memorial lecture instituted in the name of one of India's most illustrious soldier scholar, Lieutenant General Srinivas Kumar Sinha. At the outset, let me quote General Hasnan from today's article in the Indian Express, where he says, "Senior officers shaped by prolonged CI service often develop a distinctive capacity to manage complexity, balancing firmness with empathy, authority, with restraint." Sinha epitomized this quality. I think we couldn't have asked for a better encapsulation of his personality. And so thanks to General Hasnan for putting out this article on today's historic day. General Sinha embodied the finest traditions of the Indian Army, a rare blend of battlefield courage, intellectual depth, and unwavering commitment to national security. From active service in Burma, now Myanmar, and Indonesia to commanding formations across Ladakh, Manipur, Assam, Jammu, Punjab, and the Western Theater, his career is a master class in operational excellence and strategic clarity. As Vice Chief of the Army Staff, he was widely regarded as one of the most outstanding generals of his generation. But his legacy transcends rank and appointment. As Governor of Assam and later Jammu and Kashmir, he demonstrated that the general's mind extend beyond the battlefield into the hearts of the people. I think he lived this particular statement. His three-pronged counter-insurgency strategy in Assam, integrating unified command, economic development, and psychological initiatives, remains a benchmark in India's internal security doctrine. It exemplified what General N.C. Vij once described as the need for bold decisions in critical times that shape the destiny of nations. This also reminds me, and sorry for being a little bit of a salesman here, we will request all of you to kindly go through his book, Alone in the Ring, Decision Making in Critical Times. A copy of that is also lying outside, displayed. So do take a look at that, and of course, take it home if you want to enjoy reading it. The installation of 1 lakh shallow tube wells in the Brahmaputra Valley was not just an agricultural reform. It was a strategic stroke that turned rice deficit state into a rice surplus one, proving that development is the most potent antidote for insurgency. His psychological initiatives, rebuilding emotional bridges between Assam and the rest of India, echoed the wisdom of Lieutenant General Raj Shukla. Again, I'm being a little bit of a salesman here because they're all associated with me, who has captured this thought process, stating that civil-military fusion is central to strengthening India's national power and comprehensive security. A lot of copies of his book is lying outside. I would recommend all of you to not only read it, but take it home. It's a very, very compelling book. So I'm sure all of you will benefit from that. General Sinha's approach was not mere tactical. It was transformational. He understood that winning wars is not enough. We must win peace. That's the bottom line. Wars are just an interim step towards actually harnessing peace for your country. His tenure saw a dramatic decline in violence, and his leadership earned him the heartfelt title of a true son of the soil of Assam. At that point in time, I was staff officer to Eastern Command Army Commander, and we had General Vij as the Corps Commander then. I think the job done at that point in time was fabulous, and General Deepak Kapoor was also there at that particular point in time. I'm sure they will reminiscence of those times during Raj Shukla's conversation. If you look at his scholarly profile, because that is something which has been associated with General Sinha as prolific writer and orator with nearly 300 published articles and lectures across universities and institutions. He enriched India's strategic discourse. His intellectual contributions remain a beacon for institutions like Clause, reminding us that true leadership in the land warfare demands not just tactical brilliance, but strategic foresight, and above all, moral courage. Someone has rightly said that courage is the underlying quality for all your qualities which are required as a personality if you are in the armed forces. This annual memorial lecture is a humble tribute to his enduring legacy, a legacy of professionalism, integrity, and selfless service to the nation. It offers as a platform to reflect on contemporary challenges in land warfare and to draw inspiration from his life and works. Let's remember his example not just in a ceremony, but in doctrine, in leadership, and the way we shape India's strategic future. Once again, I warmly welcome each one of you. Thank you. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir. It's really unfortunate that the Raksha Mantri ji, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, is unable to attend the event in person. However, he has graciously recorded a video message and has sent it for the occasion. May we kindly request the video message to be played, please.
नमस्कार। मुझे यह जानकर अच्छा लगा कि आप सब दिवंगत लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल श्रीनिवास कुमार सिन्हा की जन्म शताब्दी पर मेमोरियल लेक्चर का आयोजन कर रहे हैं। मैं सबसे पहले स्वर्गीय लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल श्रीनिवास कुमार सिन्हा जी की स्मृति को श्रद्धापूर्वक नमन करता हूँ। राष्ट्र के प्रति जो उनका समर्पण था वह हम सब के लिए एक प्रेरणा है। जनरल सिन्हा केवल एक महान सैनिक ही नहीं थे, बल्कि वह उन विरले व्यक्तियों में से एक थे जिन्होंने जीवन भर राष्ट्र को तथा सेना को सर्वोपरि रखा। जीवन पर्यंत राष्ट्र के प्रति उनकी ऐसी निष्ठा रही, ऐसा समर्पण रहा कि उनका जीवन देश सेवा का पर्याय बन गया। 1926 में जन्मे जनरल सिन्हा ने बहुत कम उम्र में ही देश की सेवा का संकल्प लिया। सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वार के दौरान बर्मा के मोर्चे पर उन्होंने कठिन परिस्थितियों में देश का प्रतिनिधित्व किया। वहीं से उनके भीतर वह अनुशासन और दूरदृष्टि विकसित हुई जिसने आगे चलकर उनके पूरे जीवन की एक दिशा दी। 1947 में जब राष्ट्र एक ऐतिहासिक और चुनौतीपूर्ण दौर से गुजर रहा था और पाकिस्तान समर्थित बल कश्मीर की ओर बढ़ रहा था, तब श्रीनगर में भारतीय सेना की पहली एयरलिफ्ट के समन्वय में भी मेजर सिन्हा की भूमिका अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण रही। सेना में रहते हुए उन्होंने हमेशा प्रोफेशनलिज्म और एक सैनिक की गरिमा को सर्वोपरि रखा। भारतीय और ब्रिटिश दोनों स्टाफ कॉलेजों में उनका उत्कृष्ट प्रदर्शन इस बात का प्रमाण है कि वे बहादुर होने के साथ साथ अत्यंत प्रखर बुद्धि के अधिकारी भी थे। डायरेक्टर ऑफ मिलिट्री इंटेलिजेंस, एडजुटेंट जनरल और विभिन्न कमानों के नेतृत्व में उन्होंने भारतीय सेना को आधुनिक सोच और संस्थागत मजबूती देने का भी कार्य किया। सेवानिवृत्ति के बाद भी उनका योगदान समाप्त नहीं हुआ। नेपाल में भारत के राजदूत के रूप में उन्होंने हमारे संबंधों को सुदृढ़ किया। असम और जम्मू कश्मीर के राज्यपाल के रूप में उन्होंने सुरक्षा और विकास के लिए भी काम किए। आज जब भारत अपनी संप्रभुता से जुड़े मुद्दों पर स्पष्ट और दृढ़ नीति के साथ आगे बढ़ रहा है, तब जनरल सिन्हा जैसे व्यक्तित्व हमारे लिए एक सोर्स ऑफ इंस्पिरेशन बनकर उभरते हैं। उनकी जन्म शताब्दी के इस अवसर पर हमें उनके आदर्शों से सीखना चाहिए। यदि हम ऐसा कर पाए तो हम निश्चित रूप से उस भारत का निर्माण कर पाने में सक्षम होंगे जिस भारत का स्वप्न हमारी आंखों में पल रहा है। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि यह कॉन्क्लेव न सिर्फ हमारी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस के लिए बल्कि इस देश के युवाओं के लिए भी एक फ्रूटफुल रिजल्ट लेकर आएगा। अंत में मैं दिवंगत लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल श्रीनिवास कुमार जी सिन्हा के प्रति अपनी श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करते हुए और इस लेक्चर की सफलता की शुभकामनाएं देते हुए अपना निवेदन समाप्त करता हूं। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
We are deeply grateful to the Honorable Raksha Mantri ji for spending some time out of his busy schedule and giving us a video message. We shall now proceed to a fireside chat between two very distinguished individuals who were closely associated with Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha during his tenures as governor as well as his post-retirement life. May we invite Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Youth Seva Medal, Sena Medal retired to the stage, please. Lieutenant General Raj Shukla served as the General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Army Training Command, where he was pivotal in shaping India's professional military education and doctrinal modernization. He currently serves as a member of the Union Public Service Commission. Joining Lieutenant General Shukla is General Nirmal Chandra Vij, Param Vishis Seva Medal, Uttam Youth Seva Medal, Ati Vishis Seva Medal retired. General N.C. Vij is the 20th Chief of the Army Staff. As the Director General Military Operations, General Vij was responsible for coordinating and executing Operation Vijay in 1999. On superannuation, the General was appointed as Founder Vice Chairman of the National Disaster Management Authority. May we please have General Vij on the stage? We shall now proceed with the highly anticipated fireside chat titled From the Jungles of Assam to the Valleys of Kashmir Reflections of Diplomacy, Statecraft, and Nation Building. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Former chiefs, the Vice Chief of Army Staff, DG Claus, Ambassador Yash Sinha, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Jai Hind. First of all, thank you for braving the January chill and turning out in such large numbers. My experience in recent times has been that in Delhi, there are more speakers than people who are willing to listen. More people willing to speak than audiences, so we are truly grateful to you for having found the time to join this event. On a personal note, I am delighted to be part of the birth centenary celebrations of General Sinha. Though I must correct the MC, I never served with him. I was commissioned in 82. He exited the army in 83, so we are generations apart. If there's anybody who served with him or seen him closely, it's General Vij, and that's what the conversation is about. But in my view, I watched him from afar, as many of us youngsters did. And in my view, he is indeed India's foremost soldier statesman. And that is what we shall try and bring out in the conversation. I am an ardent and personal admirer of his many talents and virtues, some of which I have seen from some proximity, but largely from a distance. And I must what General Dushyant brought out this morning. If you haven't read General Hasnain's brilliant tribute to General Sinha this morning, you must. He has really captured his persona, his life and times very accurately, and I think it's a great article, some of which I'll be quoting in the course of this conversation. But I think General Sinha's contributions to the cause of Indian defense, particularly higher defense organization. He was the man who first waged those battles about the Chief of Defense Staff, MOD integration, and so on. And today, if we have a CDS, who shall hopefully be joining us soon, and a DMA, it is largely due to General Sinha. His papers, his persuasions, his advocacies, they were indeed phenomenal. And subsequently, when he was Governor Assam, Governor J&K, his contributions to nation building, national security, and statecraft were indeed extraordinary. He had a deep understanding of history, and as General Hasnain recalls in this article, he had that knack of converting history into an operational asset. And we see by example. That's how, his intellect was so important to the army. On each issue, he had century-long perspectives. And I'll recount to you through one of his interviews to the lady who heads ANI, Smita Prakash. And the icing on the cake, really, in this conversation is to be speaking about General Sinha, who was an institution builder. AGIF, AWHO, the Pay Commission is largely due to him. So to be speaking about one institution builder with another institution builder, And I'm not saying it because General Vij is present here. I've said it many times in the past when he released, when I joined him for the release of his book. So that's what makes this conversation very special. Thank you very much, sir, for joining this conversation. A brief preamble before I pose the first question to General Sinha. So what sets General Sinha apart? What makes him one of his kind? First and foremost, his many professional accomplishments. On commissioning, he got the Commandant's Baton, which was the Sword of Honor. And those of us who've been in the competing business know how difficult it is to get that. So he was already there. He's a Delta on the Junior Command course, another big rarity. And he gets nominated to the Joint Services Staff College in UK by General Biji Kaul. And there's an interesting anecdote that as he's doing the attachment in Wellington, he asks General Sinha to depose against General Manekshaw when those two camps were developing. And to General Sinha's great credit, he doesn't do so. So the first evidence of character. And thereafter, I think General Dushyant mentioned, he was at the center of India's earliest security crisis, J&K, when he was at the MO Directorate, and that his career spans the full arc of soldiering. There's nothing that he has not done in his career. But he really grows to wider prominence in the military when he begins to steer the advocacy of the cause of the military in 1971 as the director of the Pay Commission Cell. And that wins him universal applause, because those were the days when there were these very feisty battles between the civil and military on status, perks, and privileges, and he did that job wonderfully well. Then he pilots the introduction of the Army Group Insurance Scheme, and there are many contributions of his. He was a man for many moments. Just let me recall one or two events here and there. In 1973, he's sent to Italy to head a delegation on the Convention on Human Rights in Warfare. And he crosses swords with a gentleman called Professor Tom Crabb, an American who, criticizes India's role in East Pakistan, Goa, and Kashmir. And with his eloquence and wit, he refutes every argument of the professor, quotes articles from here and there on account of his deep research that rebut the arguments, and Professor Crabb apologizes to General Sinha in that conference publicly. So, I mean, this was his research, intellect, his ability to, steer India's interests, the military's interests locally, India's interests worldwide. And when he returns, he's personally congratulated by General Sam Manekshaw and the then Defense Minister, Mr. Jagjeevan Ram. He was a powerful orator. I've seen him in person as the Commander, High Command Wing. We'll come to that too. He had an elephantine memory. I think General Dushyant said this, everybody notices. He always spoke without a piece of paper in his hand. I'm speaking with notes. He had an elephantine memory and very deep intellect. And, General Hasnain today has used a phrase in ode to him, but also in a general manner. He says, General Sinha proved that intellect in uniform is not an ornament to be worn, but a sacred duty. I think he's captured it very well. This is what General Sinha did. It was embellished in his soldierly persona. General Hasnain quotes it, I have also observed it. When he would address press conferences, he had this knack of disarming the most aggressive questions with his knowledge, eloquence, and command of the subject. It's an art in addressing the press and so on and so forth. You have to watch those videos to see these nuances of General Sinha. He undoubtedly had a great mind, but he also had a great heart, and the mind was connected to an equally formidable spine, which really sets the man apart. In 1976, he makes a presentation for the Carter Review. Mr. Subramaniam, the defense minister, compliments him by saying that, General, you are in the wrong profession. You should have been a lawyer. So when he was asked to advocate causes, he did them with such excellence. He piloted cases for AWHO. Som Vihar was the first of its kind. The Army Welfare Education Society. so on and so forth. So his contributions have been seminal. He was never flashy. He didn't have the charisma of Sam Manekshaw, but he was deeply substantive. His deep understanding of history, as I said, was converted into an operational asset. He shaped minds when he was an instructor at infantry school, the Defense Services Staff College. Bit by bit, brick by brick, he built his career. And his life and times, I think, can be epitomized in this wonderful verse, which goes like this, कि खामोशी से बनाते रहो पहचान अपनी, हवाएं खुद तुम्हारा तराना गुनगुनाएंगी. This gathering here today, perhaps, is that tarana. We've all gathered here to celebrate the life and times of General S.K. Sinha. So with that very elaborate preamble, let me now turn to General Vij. So you've seen him very closely, perhaps I think as GOC 4 Corps and then the chief, when you were the chief. So would you agree with me, sir? What is your recall of the persona of General Sinha as a soldier, as an institution builder, and as a military statesman?
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the former chiefs here, General Kapoor, General Dalbir, the Director, Claus, High Commissioner Sinha, I see somebody was here, and all the friends here. First of all, now that I've got an opportunity and a mic in my hand, may I wish you all a very happy new year. And the beginning of the year, and may you have a great year ahead. Now, I've had the honor and privilege of having seen General Sinha at a close hand right from the very inception of my service, actually. I was a G1 in 9 Dev when he was our army commander. And then when I was 4 Corps commander, he was the governor there. And when I took over as the chief, he was the governor in J&K, so huge help on that account. And then when disaster management, of course, in the VIF, we were very, I was involved with him. And when I came to the VIF, I kept meeting him very, very often. There are many amongst us here, General, I see his partnermates here, General Shankar, and Mrs. Malik here, he was here. General Vinay Sharma here, who's been very, actually they're close relations also. And many amongst you perhaps who would have known him as well. Now looking at General Sinha, he always, as a matter of fact, General Raj Shukla has already covered lots of things which one would have liked to say, so I would not repeat those. But what I would say is that he never thought that the kinetic is the only answer to the problem. He always went for the intellect, and also try to study the culture and the heritage of the place to put that into the maximum optimum use. Like when he was in Assam, he felt that the Ulfa, which was the major problem at that time when he was the governor and I was commanding 4 Corps, it was the Ulfa agitation was at its peak. And he felt that the Ulfa gets the maximum recruitment from the poorer section. So that 100,000 wells which General Dushyant mentioned about, 2 wells, they were, the thought was brought in and the Chief Minister was very supportive. And they were dug up. And that involved a lot of poorer cross-section. And it helped him a lot, and it helped the state of Assam and helped all of us in that particular job. When he was in Kashmir, he looked at the pluralistic culture of Kashmir. He wanted to take advantage of the history and promote the Sufism and Kashmiriyat in their culture. And things of that kind, you know. What is Sufi Kashmiriyat is a sort of fusion of Vaishnavi religion with the Sufi Islam. So he wanted to do things of that kind. So he was not only restricted to the kinetic use, which most of the soldiers are. So as he mentioned that the intellect is not an ornament only to be worn, but to be used in our profession. That's very important. Because you have to think out of the way, out of the normal run, to get into the understanding of the people whom you are dealing with. So I think General Sinha was a great soldier, scholar. You can say anything, soldier, scholar, author, and historian, diplomat, administrator, anything. There are any number of things which you can use for him and then he was a very powerful orator, obviously, and full of anecdotes, any number of anecdotes. And it was always a pleasure listening to him. It was always a pleasure talking to him. When I was in disaster management, I'll tell you what, we made out a chart because we were the ones who raised that organization. So trying to find out as to how to go about it. And we made out a chart, I sent it to him amongst with two more people, with Naresh Kumar and Mr. Vora. And the advice I got from General Sinha was, he said, look, hold your chart upside down because you have talked of the community at the end, which we would have done because the organization was given on the top and then the other things followed and then the community. He said the community is the most important part of the disaster management. Build them up, then only you will get a hang of it. So he was a man whom if you went to him, he will think over a problem very seriously and give you an answer. So I think I benefited a lot from his close advice. When I was 4 Corps commander, we wanted to, Dushyant mentioned about it, in 4 Corps we had huge surrenders of the Ulfa cadre. And I talked to General Sinha, I went over to him and talked to him that, look, if we do get the surrenders done, there will be a mass reaction. There will be very adverse reaction from the response from the politician and also from the public. So, and I had an experience as a brigade commander when I did the same thing. There was a lot of hue and cry, and as a matter of fact, they wanted to inquire into this matter. So, and I said, we must get the chief minister for the program. So he said, okay, I'll persuade him to action on your part. So
thank you, sir. Let me, recall a personal anecdote of, I think that's the only time I physically associated with him, was when I was the commander, High Command Wing. This was about, I think, 4 or 5 months before he passed away. And we invited him to speak to the High Command course at Mao. So we got a message that his health didn't allow him to travel to Mao, but he would be delighted to speak to the course in Delhi. So General Tiwari was the commandant from the Armored Corps, and between us, we organized the travel of the course to Delhi. And in the USI, he addressed the course, and I think that would be one of his last formal addresses. What I recall from that is the first part which everybody says. He was speaking on the High Defense Organization, and he traced the history of the High Defense Organization from the days of Chandragupta to the Kitchener-Curzon dispute and to the present day without a piece of paper. I mean, that was something which was admirable. And now look at the anecdote, his reasoning, and then the kicker in the tail. So he gives this argument about how India had a CDS in the days of Chandragupta. What is that argument? He says that the Mauryan War Office had all the attributes of a modern HDO, High Defense Organization. And how does he substantiate it? He says that the Mauryan War Office had under it 6 boards. What were those boards? Chariots, infantry, cavalry, elephants, admiralty, and the commissariat, which is probably logistics. Obviously, there was no air, so air was not there. But he said the gentleman who commanded these 6 boards was one. And since it was all the elements of the army and the navy, he was the CDS. That was his argument. And he said there was one office to control it. So his argument was of a CDS on this logic. He went on to outline why the Kitchener-Curzon dispute was so important in the evolution of India's High Defense Organization. There's no time to recall that. But one thing I remember from that, he brought in General Bhagat. I think he had served under General Bhagat on a number of occasions. And firstly, he praised him like anything. And he said he was a great soldier, somebody with great courage, this, that, and the other. But what has remained in my memory is that since General Bhagat was a sapper, he compared him with General Douglas MacArthur and Lord Kitchener, who were sappers. Now, I didn't know that they were sappers, but General Sinha knew that they were sappers. And he compared him. So this is how he put his history. He used his deep historical knowledge to weave stories. And the other part was in the questions. So somebody asked him that should India have a CDS, and the usual question, we didn't have a CDS. Now his answer was stunning. He was sitting next to me, he was from the Gurkhas. I thought he'll get up and say that we would have had a CDS, and the CDS should have been Sam Manekshaw. So he said, yes, we should have had a CDS. But in my view, he said, now I disagree with him totally, but this is exactly what he said. He said, in my view, the first CDS should not have been Sam Manekshaw. He was flamboyant. The more substantive gentleman was Air Chief Marshal Lal. Now, I don't agree with him, but the Air Force will be delighted to hear this, I presume. This was his ability to speak what he thought was right, the ability to rise above tribalism. And it is these stories of his, or people like him, that have remained with youngsters like me. And that's what makes somebody like General S.K. Sinha so great. So is there any anecdote that you recall about him which is absolutely stand out and which you would like to narrate to the audience?
Well, I think his tenure in J&K was very challenging because General Sinha was there to solve the problem. He was wanting to help, and he wanted to help the army to the maximum hilt. The civil government, I will not say, were not wanting to solve it, but they had their own approach. They didn't want to follow the kind of approach which General Sinha was trying to do, like the Kashmiriyat, promoting Kashmiriyat, promoting pluralistic culture, promoting Sufism. And because the radicalization at that time was at peak in J&K. General Shankar, remember, he was also there as the MBGS in Northern Command for a while. So he will know the Kashmir area very, very well. So he was trying to promote all these things. He held also a music festival there because he felt that in music lies a lot of good feelings and all that generate good feeling and bring out all these qualities. And he was all the time on kind of a struggle with the civil government on that account. But he stuck to his the direction which he wanted to do. And I think, a marvelously great job. Whether the civil administration admired that or not, I cannot say. But coming to the Assam side where we worked with him, he was a great sport. We used to have regular meetings, and once in a month at least we will meet, go over to the Raj Bhavan, meet him, and talk to him and get lots of ideas from him. And his ideas were more on the direction of the non-kinetic, because the kinetic part in any case we were doing to the optimum hilt. And he'll suggest to you non-kinetic and how to deal with the public, how to take advantage of the public sentiments. That's why those 100,000 tube wells and the other things were promoted in that particular area. Yes, he, like you also mentioned, he was a great historian. And in his tenure in Assam, he wanted to revive history and generate pride in the SP's people. So Lachit Barphukan was the general of Assam, who in 1678 had defeated the Mughal armed forces in the Battle of Sarai Ghat on the Brahmaputra River. It was a naval battle. He was a general from the army. And he did a lot for Lachit Barphukan and promoted his particular legend. So he was a man who was, thinking out of the ordinary. He didn't really get stuck into a small little parameter or confined in which to think. He thought always, like you also, Raj, mentioned about the CDS definitions and other things. He was a man who was thinking beyond that, and I think because he was also a historian, he wrote lots of books, and as a matter of fact, his books were worth reading, especially A Soldier Recalls, which he was his autobiography in 92, and then Right to, I'm forgetting the name of the book. So, Right to Swaraj. That was the transition of the Indian Armed Forces.
Yeah. Raj to Swaraj.
Probably transition of the Indian Armed Forces from the colonial era to the present day generation. So he was a man who was always thinking of out of the ordinary. So I think the armed forces unfortunately missed a chief who was not to be, but perhaps he would have been a great, great asset to the Indian Armed Forces and to the country as such, which we missed out, but then those are different things.
Today, in this article of Indian Express, General Hasnain writes that he pushed the organizing of a music festival on the Dal Lake when he was Governor J&K. And I'll just quote the motivations for that. He said that along with the kinetics, we need acts of cultural assertion. We must signal solidarity with Kashmir's liberal traditions and deny radical elements monopoly of the public space. So it's only very fine minds who can combine kinetics with non-kinetics. We spoke about his history. So, yesterday I was just researching him a bit, so I Googled General Sinha. And on my feed comes this video of General Sinha on Bangladesh. And this is Smita Prakash, I think, interviewing him 10 years back. There are a host of issues. But as I'll recount, again, without a piece of paper. Now, you cannot speak like this unless you have deep reading and brilliant intellect. So I'll just recount this. So in this interview, Smita Prakash asked him that, sir, in 1998, you authored a report about Bangladesh. I think he did it when he was the governor. And you said that Bangladesh is a huge volcano. And then she says, the crisis of Bangladesh can be traced back to 1947. And I'm sure she's a young reporter. She must have researched her facts well. And General Sinha tells her that the Bangladesh, this greater Bangladesh idea, goes back to 1903. And he reels out a series of facts which are stunning in their detail, and only somebody who's genuinely well-read. He says in 1903, the All India Muslim League at Dhaka, in its first session, spoke of Banga Islam. And the idea behind that was to partition Bengal into West Bengal and East Bengal, and then unite East Bengal and Assam on religious lines and not linguistic lines. He further goes on to say that the migration, which we think is a recent phenomena, began sometime in 1910 from Singh to Assam. He recalls that there was a census in 1932 conducted by a British ICS officer, Mullen, who warned then that if migration is not stopped, Assam will lose its identity. He goes on to quote a gentleman called Sir Sadullah, who was Prime Minister of Assam. I never knew Assam had a Prime Minister. I thought they were always Chief Minister, but he's historically correct. Who, while everybody else was growing more food in the World War, I believe that was the campaign, he was growing more Muslims. And the gentleman who cautioned him was Lord Wavell. And this is General Sinha reeling out these facts without a piece of paper. He goes on to say that, in 1946, there was a concept floated about a Hindu majority province, Muslim majority province, and Assam and Bengal, which was peculiar. And behind that, this idea was to unite Assam with Bengal. And that idea was stymied by somebody called Mr. Bardoloi from the Congress in concert with Mahatma Gandhi. Now, I have read out all these facts from this piece of paper. The difference between me and General Sinha was that he came unprepared for that press conference and could rattle off these facts. I mean, it's amazing when you look. So today when we try and, look at Bangladesh and these kind of issues, if we do not have this deep historical understanding, we will not take the best of decisions. And I think this is what makes General Sinha, his intellect, so pertinent. It was not an ornament. He actually used it through his life. And he wore his erudition with effortless ease. There was an instinctive grasp of nuance which actually mocks the phrase scholar warrior. Somebody like General Sinha, they combine the two. His persona deserves neither the preface nor the suffix, because he carried them with such effortless ease. We'll now turn to another episode in his career, sir, and that is his ability, willingness to speak truth to power, which comes after the assassination of Lala Jagat Narayan in 1983, the arrest of Bhimran Wale from Chowk. And there I'm told the story is that the Punjab government requests for army help. He refuses the help. The chief minister speaks to the prime minister, a very powerful prime minister like Indira Gandhi, and the orders come that the army will arrest Bhindranwale. And he picks up the phone and speaks to the defense minister, Mr. Venkatraman, and says, sir, that the army should not do it. So Mr. Venkatraman says, are you refusing orders? He says, I'm not refusing orders, but I wish that my views be placed before the prime minister once, and if she insists, we will do so. And it so happens that I'm told when the prime minister is told, the orders are cancelled, and the army does not get to involved in his arrest. But, and thereafter, General Sinha sketches a plan which is more in the Black Thunder mode and not the Blue Star mode. And that is perhaps one of the reasons why he doesn't make it to chief. But this attribute of his speaking truth to power when it mattered most, when he was sweating to be chief, I mean, this is an extraordinary attribute. Would you like to comment on this?
Yes. This incident you have already mentioned. I think professional integrity was one of the biggest assets of General Sinha. And similarly, like the incident you mentioned in the Operation Blue Star, there also he had expressed his reservations on the way the army was being utilized. And I believe this is what one reads from the books. I never asked him about that part, that one of the reasons why he didn't become or he was not promoted was because the government was very annoyed on this recommendation of his, and they didn't trust him as much on that account, and he was passed over. So professional integrity was there. Like when he was passed over also, he was called by General Rao and told that this is the decision of the government. He came back to his office. He didn't protest. Came back to his office, wrote 2 letters, one to General Vaidya, who was to take over as the chief, and congratulating him, and the second letter, resigning. So what better examples of professional integrity? And I think more than resigning, I will even more appreciate, personally more appreciate more his letter to General Vaidya first, and congratulating him for being nominated as the chief. He was a man of great integrity, but since we talked of some anecdotes, I must mention 2 things. As a junior officer, as a captain, he was in the MO Directorate and was made responsible, because that time the MO Directorate was a minuscule directorate, unlike the directorate of today, which has expanded a lot. And there were total 6 Dakotas in the Indian Armed Forces. And their acquisition, all the Dakotas which were available in the country, which were about 50 of them. So anyway, the first 6 was lifted to the valley, and they did a tremendous job. But 20 years after that incident, an audit objection was raised. And audit objection was raised for unauthorized use of the Dakotas. And I believe that it took a lot of effort on the part of the, naturally the senior officers of that time, to make sure that that thing gets resolved without much fuss. We talked of General Bhagat, and that reminds me of an incident which he quotes of General Sinha, quotes of General Field Marshal Manekshaw, that once Madam Indira Gandhi walked into the MO Ops room for some discussion, and she found a bottle of old, what is this? Black Dog. But I'm a non-drinker, so not very good at...
More likely old monk, sir.
So no, Black Dog. This is what I was read. And then she looked at him, and he said, look, madam, this is what Yahya Khan drinks, and I'm going to outdrink him and outfight him. So things of that kind. He was a man of great... he had a lot of knowledge on the anecdotes and knew lots of things personally. I remembered them and made sure that he passed them on to the generation, so that people knew the lighter side of the armed forces also, in the lighter vein. Things of that kind are very important as far as General Sinha is concerned. It was always a pleasure. You were, as a matter of fact, always learning from him. That is what was great. As a matter of fact, when I was in disaster management, they used to live in Vasant Kunj, and I had to go back to my house every day in the evening to Gurgaon. And he had taken a promise from him that I'll meet him once in 15 days. So I used to go over to him in the evening, once in 15 days or around that much of time. And we'll have a cup of tea together, and that 1 hour or so which one spent together used to be a great education and thinking and talking about the old types.
So you mentioned this incident about the fact when General Vaidya was announced as the chief. At least to the middle piece and younger officers in this audience, do go and watch the press conference that he gave when he was overlooked. And he refused to, in accord with his understanding of civil-military relations, he said that the government has the right to choose its own chief when he was personally affected. He refused to get drawn into any political controversy in the course of the questions and publicly complimented General Vaidya. He said he's a very fine soldier, a great general, and a close friend. And that was really grace under fire, really grace under fire. And because of this principled stand, there was universal support for him. I'm told General Karyappa and General Kumaramangalam publicly wrote in his support. And politicians across the aisle, Charan Singh, Mr. Jagjeevan Ram, Mr. L.K. Advani, H.N. Bahuguna, George Fernandes, Dharamveer Sinha, all came out in his public support. And that was the time when a soldier turned into a national icon. And of course, in his roles as the governor of J&K and Assam, he's done wonderfully, but also as ambassador to Nepal, where his diplomatic skills came to the fore. He, I'm told, just had a brief spell of 11 months, but he, in that very short period, established new levels of cordiality. And this is what the Prime Minister of Nepal had to say about him. He said General Sinha was a true friend of Nepal. He was as much India's ambassador to Nepal as he was Nepal's ambassador to India. So I think that's a good note to end on. We also had the Chief of Defense Staff here. So I'll just conclude by saying that General Sinha lived by the highest traditions of the Indian Army. He was, of course, a brilliant communicator. Not only was he a good speaker, but he was a man of sound heart, great mind. And as I said, somebody whose mind was connected to his spine. He was an outstanding soldier, historian, diplomat, institution builder, and he was one amongst the generals of that generation who were instrumental in positioning the instrument of force somewhat central to India's strategic calculus. It was pretty peripheral before that. So he was a gallant son of Mother India. He thought like a man of action. He acted like a man of thought. And he was a soldier who demonstrated that integrity is indeed the highest form of courage. So on that note, we'll conclude, sir. Thank you very much. And I think we're concluding just in time for the CDS. I hope we've laid a sound edifice for the CDS to expand on.
Yeah, just one closing conversation which I had with him. Once I asked him, I said, look, sir, you've been ambassador, you've been governor twice over, and you've been into a lot of consultative mode on the administrative affairs of the country. People consult you. So how much have you been compensated? So he said, look, Dibble, I've joined the army as my profession. That was my profession. What else came my way is, okay, secondary. So he was the man of that kind who did his best in whatever job he was assigned to, without cribbing, without making a fuss of it in public especially, and giving everybody his due. And I think his contribution to the armed forces also was immense, even after when he left. Even after when he left. That was very important, because his interest remained absolutely alive in the armed forces. And I think he was a great soldier, and one learned every bit from him, from every moment that you spent with him. And one had a lot of honor, a lot of respect for him. And I think one honored him, really thought very greatly of him. And one had genuine respect for him. I would say that. Thank you. Thank you,
There's no time for questions, but General Kapoor, sir, would you like to say something? I believe you wanted to say something. Mic le jaiye.
Thank you. I had the honor and privilege to be both in Assam and in Jammu and Kashmir while he was the governor in Assam, and he was there till June 2003. I was the Chief of Staff 4 Corps, And if you are, and I'm not going to go into all the details of lots of anecdotes which you all have given out, and all those things that you said, they are absolutely right, true, and they literally define the personality that General S.K. Sinha had. So to that extent, I would say highly educated. It's a repetition of some of the words that you all have used. Highly educated, very sharp memory, a person who could come up with the right answer at the appropriate moment. So a lot of things while he was the governor in Assam at that time, Ulfa and General Vij, having been a co-commander there earlier, would bear me out. That was the operations were at the high level as far as Ulfa was concerned, and they had also gone into Bhutan, where they had camps on the other side of the border from where they were operating. And a lot of advice which came to me specifically, because at that point in time when we launched Operation All Clear in December 2003, by which time General Sinha had moved out. He moved out from there in June, having finished the tenure of a governor in June 2003. But he'd left behind a lot of information, notes, and mutual discussion which had been there. So at that point in time, General Mahinder was the co-commander, but he was away on leave to out of the core zone, and I was officiating. And so a lot of those aspects which he had brought out, we put into practice, and that is how the camps which were there in Bhutan and the interaction with the Bhutanese government at that point in time was carried out, and we were able to resolve that issue and ensure that there was total clarity as far as Bhutan side was concerned, and therefore the tackling of the Ulfa subsequent to that in the rest of the period became much easier. Coming down to his tenure in Jammu and Kashmir, it coincided quite a bit with my tenure, firstly as the Army Commander, Northern Command, from 2005 and 6, and he had taken over as Governor of Jammu and Kashmir in 2003 and continued till 2008 June. And secondly, I moved from there as Vice Chief and subsequently as Chief. So all the way throughout, we were in touch, both while as Northern Army Commander and subsequently as Chief. And it's been brought out elsewhere that the level from which aspects like move to Amarnath Yatra, which somewhere in 2003 was approximately around 30,000 people per annum, it rose to as much as 6 lakhs in 2008, by which time he had left. It is not to say that he was only interested in that, but if you look back in history, and if you look back at that period between 2003 to 2010-11, I think that was the time when the insurgency within the state of Jammu and Kashmir was almost at its lowest ebb. It had started in '89. There have always been ups and downs, but this was one long period from about 2004 to 2011 when the insurgency was at a much lower level and much under control. And why that happened? While he worked for the populace of Jammu and Kashmir, he ensured those small micro hydel projects which were able to provide fresh amount of water to almost all villages within the valley, and that did not make a difference to whether it was a Muslim village or a Kashmiri Hindu village. And likewise, as far as Vaishno Devi is concerned, as far as services are concerned, I had an interaction with him because our boys who were going for darshans to Vaishno Devi did not have a specific place to go and sit down, spend a night and come away. Being the chairman of the Vaishno Devi Shrine Board, he ensured that those certain amount of accommodation was fixed, and those people of the services who went down to Vaishno Devi for darshans, they were given priority in going and carrying out the darshans of the shrine and go away. So in whichever way possible, he tried to look at not only the military aspects, which were already always in his consideration, he also looked at the civil side and how best he could help the populace, whether it was in terms of providing water, etc., fresh water, or in terms of building up a certain degree of harmony between the two communities at every point in time. And perhaps that's one reason why, during this period, you had a relatively much lower level of insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir than period preceding it or after it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I mean, all that General Kapoor has said, I think, sums up the persona of General Sinha, soldier, statesman. And on that note, we'll conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for an engaging and informative fireside chat. It surely have enlightened the audience. May I now invite Ambassador Yashwardhan Sinha to kindly felicitate our speakers. General N.C. Vij. General N.C. Vij. Lieutenant General Raj Shukla. Thank you, sirs. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the CDS with us, so we extend a very warm welcome to our Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Uttam Youth Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal. On the special occasion of Lieutenant General's birth centenary, let us all enjoy an engaging short film that vividly portrays the remarkable life and the historic times of the thinking general. May we have the film, please?
Today, we shall tell you the story of an eminent soldier statesman, a giant amongst mortals and leader par excellence.
Srinivas Kumar Sinha was born on 7th January 1926 in Patna, Bihar, into a family with a distinguished and proud tradition of civil and uniformed service. His father, Mithilesh Kumar Sinha, was the longest-serving Inspector General of Police of Bihar, while his grandfather, Alakh Kumar Sinha, held the distinction of being the first Indian Inspector General of any province in India during the British Raj. Srinivas was a prodigious student, graduating with honours from the Patna University in 1943 at the remarkably young age of 17. With the Second World War raging, he joined and subsequently passed out as the best cadet from the Officers Training School, Belgaum. Barely 19 years old, Second Lieutenant Sinha was thrust into the chaos of the Burma campaign. He joined his battalion in the steaming jungles of Southeast Asia, fighting a retreating but still dangerous Japanese army. After the surrender, he served as the adjutant of the Indian National Army prisoners camp. When independence came in 1947, Sinha transferred to the 5th Gorkha Rifles, Frontier Force, the regiment he would call home for the rest of his life. In October of 1947, as Pakistani raiders poured into Kashmir, the fate of Srinagar hung by a thread. The decision was made to airlift Indian troops to save the valley. This had never been done before. Major S.K. Sinha, then a junior staff officer at the Delhi and East Punjab Command, was the man tasked with the impossible, organizing the airlift. He was the key logistical brain behind the historic sortie of one Sikh to Srinagar on October 27, 1947. He remained deeply involved in the Kashmir operations throughout the 1947 to 1948 war. In 1949, he was appointed secretary to the Indian delegation for the Karachi Agreement, where he helped delineate the ceasefire line, CFL, the line we now know as the Line of Control. The 50s and early 60s were spent excelling in courses, staff, and instructional tenures. What set him apart was not merely his operational competence, but his intellectual rigor. In 1953, he secured the top position at the Defence Services Staff College in India. He repeated this feat in 1962 at the Joint Services Staff College in the United Kingdom. He commanded the 3rd Battalion of the 5th Gorkha Rifles, Frontier Force, in Ladakh, the 71st Mountain Brigade in Manipur, where he cut his teeth on counter-insurgency operations, and the 23rd Mountain Division in Assam and 10th Infantry Division in Akhnur. For his distinguished service during this period, he was awarded the Param Vishisht Seva Medal, PVSM, in 1973, the highest peacetime distinguished service award. His belief that a soldier's morale was directly linked to his dignity and financial security gave him the sobriquet of the Thinking General. He commanded the 2nd Corps in Ambala and was subsequently elevated to General Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Command. He took premature release from the Indian Army as the Vice Chief of Army Staff in 1983. In 1990, at a pivotal moment in Indo-Nepalese relations, General Sinha was appointed India's ambassador to Nepal, where he was instrumental in the restoration and deepening of Indo-Nepalese ties. So profound was his impact that Nepal's own Prime Minister paid him the extraordinary compliment. General Sinha was as much India's ambassador to Nepal as Nepal's ambassador to India. In 1997, General Sinha was appointed Governor of Assam. With the state facing multifarious challenges, General Sinha recognized that military operations alone could not resolve this crisis. He crafted a 3-pronged counter-insurgency strategy that became a model for addressing low-intensity conflicts: unified command structures, economic development as an instrument of nation building, psychological initiatives for winning hearts and minds. As Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, he again balanced robust counter-terrorism with initiatives aimed to revive Kashmiriyat, the valley's syncretic, plural tradition with tangible results. Terrorist violence declined, tourist numbers rose dramatically, and new development initiatives such as micro-hydel projects took root in remote regions. Lieutenant General Srinivas Kumar Sinha's legacy embodied a comprehensive vision for India's security architecture that remains profoundly relevant today. His choices demonstrated that military professionalism and democratic accountability are complementary principles. As India confronts multifaceted threats spanning conventional warfare, terrorism, and cyber operations, his integrated approach offers a holistic framework for modern defense policy. Sinha exemplified the soldier-statesman who understood that India's greatest strength lies in civilizational continuity, institutional integrity, and armed forces serving as guardians of the Constitution.
Following the captivating movie, it is my proud privilege to invite General Anil Chauhan, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Uttam Youth Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal, the Chief of Defence Staff, to address this august gathering.
Vice Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Pushpender, Lieutenant General Sanjeev Chauhan, President Gorkha Brigade, Colonel of the 5 Gorkhas, Major General Vikram Sharma, other Colonel of Gorkha regiments, former Governor of Mizoram, General Nirbhay Sharma, former chiefs, Ambassador Yashwardhan Kumar Sinha, General Sinha's son, officers, veterans, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. It's a matter of great honor for me to commemorate the birth centenary of late Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha and deliver the keynote address on the theme Lieutenant General Sinha, Enduring Legacy in India's Strategic Thought Leadership, Nation Building, and its relevance in the 21st century. We all know that Lieutenant General Sinha was a decorated field commander, a brilliant staff officer, and a profound military thinker. He had diplomatic and political experiences as ambassador to Nepal, as was shown on the film, and governor of Assam, as well as governor of Jammu and Kashmir. Allow me to begin from a quote which I actually heard from him. He said that when a politician says yes, he probably means maybe. When he says maybe, he actually means no. And when he says no, then he's not a true politician. When a diplomat says no, he actually means maybe. And when he says maybe, he actually means yes. And if a diplomat says yes right at the beginning, that he's not a true diplomat. As far as the soldier is concerned, when a soldier says yes, he definitely means it's a yes. When he says no, it certainly means it's a no. And if he ever says maybe, he's not a true soldier. General Sinha may have been a soldier, diplomat, and a politician all rolled into one, but I think he was a soldier at heart. He was delivering a talk at the USI after he had relinquished the governorship of J&K, and I was a colonel, actually posted in Army headquarters, and I was detailed to attend this lecture when I heard them talk about this particular quote which I just said. However, I knew him much earlier, means virtually only, because I knew him from his books. Our unit in 1984 was going to J&K in Uri and Kashmir Valley, and I bought two books. One was Slender Was a Thread by Lieutenant General L.P. Sen, Bogi Sen, and the second was Operation Rescue, Military Operations in J&K 1947 to 49 by General S.K. Sinha. The first book narrated the war from a field commander's perspective, and the second from the perspective of a staff officer. General Sinha that time was a GSO2 in Military Operations Directorate, and of course, he was instrumental in the airlift of one Sikh when the instrument of accession was signed. You just saw it in the film. Later, General Sinha was to pen down many books. Raj to Swaraj as governor of J&K, Reminiscences and Reflections, his autobiography, Unveiling Kashmir's Struggle, Guarding India's Integrity, Changing India, and so on. Long after General Sinha departed, I had again a small role in promoting or fostering his legacy. This was in the form of the museum which exists at 58 Gurkha Training Center, Shillong, which I happened to visit as an army commander. And there was an area reserved for General Field Marshal Manekshaw and also for General Sinha. And I had a little role in getting it upgraded and keeping some more memorabilia in that particular museum. Let me now talk about General Sinha as a man. First, as a scholar warrior in true sense. General Sinha was a soldier who valued education and ideation as much as he liked action. He immersed himself in military history, doctrine, and wider world of ideas. His writings and lectures reflected an officer who could connect the tactical reality with strategic trends. General Sinha was a thinking general. He believed that intellect sharpens command and that professional military education is not a luxury, but a necessity for a modern soldier. He urged officers to acquire knowledge. He felt that all officers must be students of history and geopolitics, society and culture, insurgency as well as statecraft. He said this because all military actions are designed to protect three elements of a nation state, what actually constitutes a nation state. That is territory, its people, and its ideology. Today, as warfare grows increasingly complex, spanning space, cyber, information, and the cognitive domain, the need for scholar soldiers and thinking journals is far more than before. Today, even the basic building blocks which I just spoke about, what constitutes a nation state, that are being challenged. The concept of sovereignty, the concept of nation state, that is being challenged. Even diplomacy is under strain. That brings forth the point there's more need for thinking journals to be there. Jan Sinha was also a soldier statesman. Few officers have navigated the civil military space with natural ease that Jan Sinha did. As governor, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir, he demonstrated that uniformed experience can enrich constitutional responsibility, not compete with it. He respected democratic institutions, valued dialogue, and understood that military power must always operate in harmony with political intent and societal realities. In an era where civil-military relations globally are often strained or misunderstood, Jal Sinha stands as a reminder that India's strength lies not in dominance and confrontation, but in balancing and in cooperation. He also thought that national security cannot be viewed as the responsibility of armed forces alone. It requires a whole-of-nation approach where military power works in concert with diplomacy, industry, technology, academia, and the civil administration. Jan Sinha's post-retirement roles include his distinguished tenures as governors, highlighted his conviction that the army is a powerful instrument of nation building as much as it is to protect that particular institution itself. As governor of Assam and Jammu and Kashmir, he worked amid complexity, insurgency, competing narratives, fragile peace, always guided by national interests and constitutional balance. He believed that civilians must understand the realities of conflict and soldiers must understand the compulsions of governance, and both must place nation above everything else, especially individual egos. Jan Sinha was also a man of character. His public life, he followed military ethos and ethics. This demonstrated on more than one occasions in his career as a soldier and later as a statesman, as a politician. A soldier, all soldiers are men of character. We are groomed actually to be an officer and a gentleman. We are called gentlemen cadets in the training academies, not without this reason. The Army's true strength actually lies not in the type of arms that a soldier holds, but in the character of the soldiers who bear those arms. I'm saying this because this particular profession, which most of us have joined, is unique in very many senses actually. This is one profession which we don't practice regularly, but one is expected to perform on that fateful day when called upon during war or adversity. Other professions, like a lawyer, he would practice every day. A surgeon would carry out surgeries every day. An architect or a civil engineer would also practice every day. But a soldier, however, trades for that eventful day. An officer is required to always be thinking and planning ahead for that fateful day when it comes. We must remember that wars are not fought by that current generation who is actually fighting them. But they're also one because there was a generation before who thought about it and prepared the army for it. Jal Sinha was one of those who always thought what the future will unfold and he prepared the forces accordingly. Hence, taking what General Sinha did, it's a sense of responsibility for the current generation to think and prepare for the future, both intellectually and physically. Why would General Sinha's ideas matter in a world of constantly evolving technology and changing doctrines? How can we apply these lessons from his life in service? Lessons that are half a century old to the present milieu of constant change. First, I think, is intellectual depth improves operational judgment. A commander who has studied campaigns and rival doctrines is equipped to see patterns, not just isolated events. As much as rapidly as technology changes warfare, the basic tenets remain the same. Pattern recognition is still the fastest route to shortening the OODA cycle. Second, it sharpens strategic thinking. A journal with a habit of reflection connects local border incidents to the wider geopolitical shifts, ensuring that military operations serve clear national political aims. It strengthens moral courage. Intellectual clarity helps a commander make sound, objective decisions, ensuring that operations are not only popular, but strategically sound and justified. It obviates the need to react, instead engendering the ability to respond in a calibrated and judicious manner when all actions are well thought out. Now let me lay out a few lessons for the current generation of young officers, some of whom are there in the hall today. And it's not only for the young generation, but for everyone actually. To the senior leadership, we need to build a culture where professional military education, debate, and integrity are as much valued as gallantry. Encourage dissent, views, and courage of conviction. Wars are often won by the outliers and those who think outside the box. To the middle-level officers, invest your mind as fiercely as you train your body. Read widely, think independently, and wear your professional ethos as a badge of honor. To young officers, JCOs, and men, as the future of the armed forces, you must train hard, think deeply, value discipline, cultivate reflection, lead with firmness, but also with empathy. Remember that courage lies not only in battle, but also in moral clarity. To the veterans, help safeguard the credible armed forces by celebrating not only our victories in war, but also our professional restraint, our ethics, and our quiet efforts towards nation building during peace. As part of the concluding remarks, I would like to say that General Sinha brought a generation of officers who were not defined by their appointments, but by their purpose. He was a professional soldier in the truest sense, being operationally sound, morally anchored, and intellectually curious. He taught us that the finest Indian soldier is not the brave in battle, but also clear in mind and clean in conscience. An educated, professionally focused, and intellectually alive armed forces strengthen the state and it anchors the nation. If we can successfully combine General Sinha's courage in uniform, his curiosity of mind, and his constant upholding of the Constitution, then the Indian soldier will not only defend our land and its people and borders, he and she will shape India's destiny. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a patient hearing. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for a very inspiring and insightful talk. May I invite the Colonel of the Regiment of 5th Gorkha Rifles, Frontier Force, Major General Vikram Sharma, to felicitate General Anil Chauhan. Thank you, sirs. It is my privilege to invite Ambassador Yashvardhan Sinha to kindly deliver the closing remarks.
General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Defence Staff, the Vice Chief, Senior Generals from Army Headquarters, the former Chiefs, General Vij, General Kapoor, and General Sohag, General Irbhay Sharma, the former Governor Mizoram, members of my father's family, extended family, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm rather overwhelmed because I've been asked to make closing remarks and very little that I can add to what has already been said. But at the outset, it would be remiss on my part not to express deep gratitude to Honorable Raksha Mantri for his very poignant remarks that you heard at the start of this function. I would also like to thank General Chauhan for not only his delivering the keynote address, but for even facilitating this event. I recall that I mentioned to General Chauhan a few months ago that I wanted to commemorate my father's birth centenary, and he was so forthcoming. And I think down the line, I think the people who've held this, who've hosted this event, particularly I would like to thank General Raj Shukla, because he's another person I had discussed this idea with, and of course he set in motion a whole chain of events. But really the credit goes to General Dushyant Singh, the DG Claus, and General Vikram Sharma, Colonel of the 5th Gurkhas, because without them this event would not have been possible. And with General Sharma, his team, in particular, Colonel Siddharth Banerjee, Regimental Staff Officer, who tirelessly worked, single-handedly almost, to organize this event. And I thank you, Colonel Siddharth, and thank you, all of you, for all the help that you have given for this event to be organized. I would like to also acknowledge my family, my father's family, his sister, Mrs. Padma Bhattagar, and his brother, Mr. C.K. Sinha, and wife, Mrs. Mona Sinha, his cousins, and the large extended Sinha family here, his nephews, his grandnephews, and my wife, Girija, and son Ambuj. They were all very helpful in ensuring that this event would go on as planned, and we were worried about the weather, we were worried about the traffic, and we were certainly worried about the AQI. But I'm glad everything held for this afternoon, a fitting tribute to my father. And I would also like to thank all my friends who have turned up to pay tribute to my father. I think it is an excellent opportunity for all of us to gather, recall his contribution to nation building. And I'm General Shukla and General Vij took us through his career in the army and, of course, afterwards. But the regiment put together that video that you saw, a short snippet of his life, which really captured the essence of what he stood for and what he is. So with these words, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for turning up today and honoring his memory. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. As we are nearing the end of this memorial lecture, may I invite Major General Vikram Sharma, Vishesh Seva Medal, Colonel of the Regiment of the 5 Gorkha Rifles, Frontier Force, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Jai Hind. Before I just give out my vote of thanks, I will just like to say when I was a young captain, I had attended my Diamond Jubilee celebrations in Udaipur of my unit, and General Sinha had come as the governor attending the same, and we youngsters got around him and we asked him, sir, what makes you so special and how have you reached such a stature? So he gave number of good advice to us as youngsters, but the one which stuck to us, and especially me, was he said, remember, there are 2 eyes. God has given you 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, but only one mouth. And so that says that kam suno, zada suno, zada dekho, sniff and sense, but kam bolo. So that's the secret of doing well and being observant. And on the lighter side, he says, God has given you 2 kidneys. He says, but don't abuse them by doing elbow exercise. So that was on the lighter side. And then he was also mentioning in one of the chats that when he was the Adjutant General, the course mate of his was the MS. And he says the MS used to tease him, the Adjutant General used to tease the MS. He says, I never see you go out to the washroom. What's the problem? He says, it's for the fear of a leak. So, so these are the type of anecdotes he used to narrate in front of everyone. It was wonderful. So it is indeed immense privilege to offer the vote of thanks for today's memorial lecture in honor of a colossus, not just of my regiment, but of our great organization and our nation, General Srinivas Kumar Sinha. In the best martial traditions, individuals are known by their allegiances, loyalties to their regiment, through the mottos and the battle cries, or even the quirk of uniform. Few, if any, have risen above regimental colors and made such a mark as General Sinha. That regiment feels proud of a stalwart who has embellished the regimental ethos on the national and international stage. He was the 5th colonel of the 5th Gorkha Rifles, and perhaps a salutation of his genius itself. On behalf of the serving and veteran fraternity of the 5th Gorkha Rifles, I take this opportunity to extend heartfelt thanks to all of you who are present here on this momentous occasion as we celebrate his centenary, and this is that legend and an icon. At the outset, I wish to express my humble gratitude to the Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Ji, who graced this occasion through his video message. Although, due to an emergent official commitment, he could not join us, but he addressed all of us through his video message. And this has gone a long way to further inspire us in doing our duty to the uniform and the country, and to emulate the great soldierly qualities of General Sinha. I wish to thank General Anil Chauhan, our Chief of Defence Staff, not only for taking time out of his extremely busy schedule to attend this event, but also speaking to us on this day. The Chief of Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, has expressed his fond greetings to the entire family of General Sinha on this momentous occasion. Unfortunately, he is traveling abroad. He could not join us. I would also like to express deepest gratitude to General N.C. Vij, Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, for a regaling fireside chat and giving the stories that they exchanged on the stage. I'm sure the audience would have also learned a thing or two which wasn't common knowledge to all of us. I would also like to thank the Vice Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Pushpendra Pal Singh, the senior officers, all the esteemed veterans, and especially our 3 ex-chiefs of Army Staff, General N.C. Vij, General Deepak Kapoor, and General Dalbir, who also happens to be the Honorary Colonel of the Regiment of 5GR, and the august house who have gathered here at Manekshaw Center to celebrate the life of an undeniable icon, not only to the Indian Armed Forces, but also the nation. None of this would have been possible without the assistance of Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, the Director General Claus, and his team of enterprising young officers and researchers. I'm indeed grateful to them for their expertise and their alacrity in sharing the same with us to enable the successful conduct of this lecture. I would also like to thank Lieutenant Colonel Siddharth, who has put this entire thing together along with DG Claus and the support of 15GR and 35GR. Finally, I would like to thank Ambassador Yashvardhan Sinha, IFS, for allowing us to conduct this ode to his father. We hope that the lessons learned from General Sinha's life, as brought out today, shall continue to illuminate our path forward. I would like to share a short poem which I penned down for General Sinha. A legacy that leads. He stood there, duty meets decision. He led a life of dignity and strategic vision. In battle, he was tough, unbent, and intrinsically upright. In living, he was extremely humble, clear, and light. He always wanted to see the nation's flag flutter ever higher. With a heart of steel, he had it all and never did tire. And in Nepali, वर्दी संग प्रेम यही मेरो अभिमान, गोरखा को शौर्य ले जीत्यो योद्ध पनी, मन को सम्मान. 90 वर्ष पशी पनी, अटल रहो यही विधान, फेरी जन्मियो भनी पनी, पांचों गोरखा राइफल्स रोजों जीवन दान. Some serve quietly, some inspire bright, but rare few rise and become a guiding light. Lieutenant General Sinha's name will always atop stay a soldier's path and a nation's way. With this, I thank everyone who have come here. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. As we draw the curtains on today's memorial lecture, we hope to have been able to honor the rich legacy that has been left behind by Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha. May we kindly request our dignitaries to join us for a group photograph at the foyer, right outside at the right of the hall. May we also request our esteemed audience to kindly remain seated until the dignitaries have exited the hall. Our esteemed audience is warmly invited to move out for high tea laid to the left of the hall. This is Shreya